52-14. That's a spanking. Oh my God. It just shows you the talent gap. Just shows you the talent gap in the ACC. That is a drubbing. It is a skull dragging. That's a stomping. I did see at a minute 28, Clemson's got the ball. They just gonna run the clock out. So here, so you can tighten the shot just a little bit. You can see it's just not pretty. Yeah, that's exactly right. I will say though, I have not been impressed by the Clemson offensive line. And by the way, I'm not being very loud because I have two kids in bed, ready for school, sleeping for school, and my wife just went to bed, so I'm not going to be loud. Ramblin' Wreck has insurance. Yeah, that's. I think they're playing like their third string quarterback now. So they're just going to kneel it. Are they going to kneel it? Let's see what we got. Snap the ball. Why are you waiting? I guess this guy's name is like Tyshawn Pomeranian or something. I'm not sure what that guy's name is. He's a third string quarterback. I'm waiting for him to put the numbers up for the game. Aloha and mahalo, Samuel.
Again, he made a touchdown-saving play with a hit before the goal line after he threw an interception. Earlier tonight, final seconds here from Death Valley.
Oh, man. That guy's a downhill runner, dude. Oh, Devil's finna get the Gatorade bath. That's my favorite part, man. All right, yeah, there's nothing going on here. Everything's good. All right, grab it. Yeah, I like it. Right, get it. All right, go. Get him. Oh, they got the defensive coach. Might be the offensive line coach. I don't know. Man. First impression of Juiced Trevor. Guy's definitely bigger. He definitely moves better. He did stop that one touchdown from happening. Looks like Clemson storming the field. Hold on. Apparently they do this every time they win. So, yay, storm the field. Yay. I'm actually surprised that many fans stayed that far into the game. That's usually, you get like a 40-point lead. Most of the fans clear out. 38-point margin. I don't know what the spread was, but Clemson just devastated them. They had no answer for Clemson's run game. Didn't really seem to have an answer for the pass game. I did see some things that gave me a little bit of concern. If I was Clemson, I feel like Georgia Tech was able to run the ball a little too well up the middle. I didn't feel like Clemson was fast enough to the corners sometimes whenever they were trying to make a tackle. I mean, there's some stuff there that could be worked on. Big Dog Brett, did you see the carnage that we caused? Oh yeah, it was intense, man. It was intense. Georgia Tech hasn't won in Death Valley since 2008. Tiger, they ain't won much of anywhere since 2008. It was a good game. It was worth watching. I appreciate that, Jimmo. There's a ton of things that went wrong in that game for Clemson. It did give us some good tape against a decent opponent. I mean, obviously Georgia Tech is not a national championship team, but they're coached pretty well. For them to be a first-year head coach, a first-season head coach, come in and play like that, you could see a fundamental difference. This Georgia Tech looked entirely different than the Georgia Tech of old. Unfortunately, I will tell you that I believe the Georgia Tech of old would have done a better job against Clemson. I still don't think they'd have won. I just think they'd have done a better job. But I like to see that Georgia Tech is changing gears to get better. Samuel says, what year did Georgia Tech's program fall behind UGA? Have the Yellow Jackets always been this bad? No, the Yellow Jackets actually won a national championship in 1990. I want to say it was around 95 or so when they really kind of they kind of lost their fervor. Neither of these teams will stack up against Wisconsin. No, that's not accurate. Sorry, sir. Wisconsin will beat the brakes off of Georgia Tech, but Clemson will manhandle Wisconsin. The size disparity between Clemson and Georgia Tech was evident. I mean, those guys, when they were doing the back shots and the camera shots, you could see like the Georgia Tech players were like this tall compared to normal sized Clemson players. And there's no player on that team that was small. I did think they waited way too long to pull Trevor Lawrence out of the game. They should have pulled him out somewhere early in the third quarter. There was no need to play him 8 minutes in the third quarter. Now, the offensive line had been doing a pretty good job of protecting Trevor Lawrence, but the guy's such a phenom. There's no need for him to come out of that. There's no need for him to be in that game. William Bryce did a pretty good job. Jim Bryce, or whatever his name is, Bryce did a pretty good job. Appreciate it. Hey, chat, like the video. Chat, like the video. Really helps out. Appreciate staying up late. No problem, Samuel. Thank you guys for being on here. They've got more than one big dog. Wisconsin is loaded. Wisconsin does have some talent, but Wisconsin is kind of like Wisconsin's kind of like Iowa, the Iowa Hawkeyes. They always seem to have talent, but they always seem to struggle. And I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, wow, you guys get good players, but you can't really seem to do much with them. And unfortunately, that seems to be the case with them. Wisconsin will win the Big Ten West. I don't keep up enough with that conference to tell you who else in the West versus the East. I think Scott Frost being in his second year at Nebraska, or third year, whatever it is, I think he's had enough time to really start to get that program turned around. I think you'll see some much better performance out of them. And if you guys end up playing Nebraska, you might be in for a surprise. That guy's a good coach. But back to Bryce, that guy made a couple of passes, or right at fingertip passes that there is, half a step or so that those would have been touchdowns. So I mean, that score easily could be 66-14, or it could be a lot higher than it is. One of the things I really liked was whenever I saw that they started putting the third string guys. Even the third string team seemed to be able to kind of impose their will against Georgia Tech. I'm no Georgia Tech fan. They really seem to be able to impose their will, push those guys around the way they wanted to. If they needed a first down, they could get it. If they wanted to let a play extend, they could do it. I did see some problems with Clemson's defensive line. The defensive line seemed to struggle, especially against runs up the middle, and they really didn't seem to have the same speed they had last year. There were times whenever they seemed to struggle to keep up with the Georgia Tech players, and I don't think the Georgia Tech players are super fast. Good for winter snow shoveling. What are you talking about, Jimmo? I mean, it was a good game. I mean, it wasn't as exciting as the Miami game. The first half was really exciting, but there's going to be a lot of tape watched and a lot of stuff pointed at, and you're going to see a better Clemson week 2. They had really no super detrimental problems. Everybody seemed to be on the page. The penalties were limited, so I mean, how can you compare Wisconsin to Clemson when they can't even beat Brigham Young? Oh, Clemson 15-0. It's hard to knock those guys, man. I mean, as a Georgia fan, as loaded as I know my team is, if I had to pick out 3 teams in the country I didn't want to have to play tomorrow, it would be Alabama, Clemson, and probably OU. I would not want to play those guys tomorrow. If you told me I was playing Wisconsin tomorrow, I'd be like, all right, sounds good, line it up, let's go. And I mean, that's probably the general consensus among most elite football teams. Wisconsin certainly has an opportunity to be a good football team, but I got to see a lot better performance out of those guys before I'll put them in the elite category. They have the potential to get there, but they're they're not there yet. They got a lot of work to do. Dabo Swinney, one of the things that makes him so incredibly dangerous, as a guy does not get number 1, number 2 recruiting classes very often, if ever. I think the current one he has right now is on pace to be that. But he does a phenomenal job of coaching the talent he has. One of the stats I noticed in the game was that there's only 2 teams all year that Clemson is not favored to beat at 85% or higher. Every team they play, they're favored to beat at 85% or higher. So, I mean, if you walk into a game and you're a 95% favorite, or 85% or higher in every team you play, that's a pretty soft schedule. But you also got to have an elite team to do it. I mean, even if you have a soft schedule, they're not just going to hand you a 90% chance to win a game. But every one of their games is like a 90% chance to win the game. So we'll see what happens as they go along. If Georgia can get it all together, they may land an opportunity with a Wisconsin on a road game. If Georgia can get it, oh, you must mean the logistics of it. Georgia's not scared to go play anybody. We'll schedule and play anybody. It doesn't bother us. Georgia travels extremely well, and if you're a Wisconsin fan, and I can't remember the last time Georgia played Wisconsin, but ease over there and ask those guys in those Notre Dame forums how well Georgia travels. At the South Bend Notre Dame game, they were broadcasting on the radio. It was on the internet. It was on Facebook. It was on Twitter. It was on their radio stations constantly. They were telling people to stop selling their tickets to Georgia fans because it was already going to be one-sided. At the day of the game, they estimated that the Georgia fans were about 70 to 75% of the stadium were Georgia fans, and that's at Notre Dame. So Georgia travels well. Georgia's kind of stodgy and primitive. Is that right? Not necessarily, sir. Hard to be stodgy and primitive if you've got 2 running backs rushing over 1,000 yards every year. And that's going back for I think the past 3 or 4 years we've had that. Now, what Georgia has not had is a 1,000-yard receiver. But Georgia has also picked up 2 5-star wide receivers in our last recruiting class, so they're probably going to be pretty good. Wisconsin is playing Clemson just like Mike Tyson said. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Yeah, that's a fact. I mean, it's just the way it is. As far as the game goes, Georgia Tech, you can see they've certainly spent a lot of time changing their offense. They are not to a spread offense yet. They got a lot of work to do if they want to be a spread offense. It's going to take some recruiting. It's going to take time. I saw some flashes and glimmer of hope. They do have some speed, but there's a lot more work that has to be done. They need a better quarterback, and they need better receivers. They need a lot more experience. Once they get that, they might be reasonable. But you could tell there was some talent there. They definitely have an offensive line that can stand up. So hope Texas A&M gives Clemson a good game. The Texas A&M game is one of the games that they are that they're ranked at 80, only at only an 88% chance to win. The other one is South Carolina at 85. Freshman quarterback for Georgia Tech looked better than the starter. That's true too. What do I have going on Saturday? Saturday I'll be doing my live show just like I always do. I may move my live show up just a little bit on game days where
Georgia's not playing or Georgia's playing early. Typically, my live shows will go for about an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. It just kind of depends on how the conversation's going. But if it's a game day and I got a lot of stuff going on, I'll still do the live show, but it probably won't last as long, and it probably will be earlier. Tomorrow I'll be putting together a video for Vandy, the Georgia Vandy trash talk video. That deep ball that freshman Georgia Tech threw was again Kayvon Wallace, who is a solid save. Was against Kayvon Wallace, who was a solid save for us. Second touchdown, yeah. That quarterback, it's really, really hard to step on that field first game of the year, first game of the season, playing in a big environment like that. All those fans. I can't believe these kids can lace up and play as well as they do, given some of those guys never seen a stadium that full before in their life, and now they step on the field and they're playing against that. Yeah, that's pretty good, big dog. Y'all do travel well with that kind of reception. You won't get that kind of that reception at Clemson, sir. I can guarantee you that if Georgia plays Clemson, it will be no better on either side than 50-50. Both of those fan bases will show up, and it'll be a 50-50. It'll be a 50-50 game. I don't know how much you know about ticket prices, but one of the things that I kind of point to is the ticket prices for games. There's tickets right now that are not necessarily great tickets, but you can get tickets for the Georgia Notre Dame game if you're willing to shell out about $1,500 a ticket. That is a regular season game. It's not anything dramatic. It's not a playoff game. It's not a conference game. It's not a championship game. It's a regular season game, and it's $1,500 a ticket. And it's $1,500 a ticket because Georgia fans will pay for them. I'm not saying we make any more money than anybody else. I'm just as broke as everybody else is, but at the end of the day, that's how deep Georgia fans are willing to dig to go to a game that they want to go to. I don't know a lot of fan bases that are like that. When we went to Pasadena for the Rose Bowl, it was about 60-40 Georgia fans. When we go play, the furthest I've ever been away from Georgia at a game that Georgia's been at was the Missouri game when they first joined the SEC. And that stadium, it was the first game there. I guess that stadium was at least 50-50. So, it was a great game. Went to the Belk Bowl. I think it was Georgia versus Louisville. That was pretty much all Georgia fans, and that was in Charlotte. Where else have I been? I've been to a few places. Wisconsin probably has the top fan base in the country, just saying. Here's what I'll tell you, Jimmo. I'm so happy that you're a fan for your team, but I'll tell you this. I can go anywhere in the United States, and I can find these for sale at Lids, at the mall, wherever. I can find it in most places, but I can't find it in every place, a Wisconsin hat. You can find Georgia hats in Hawaii. I know because I bought mine there when I got married. I bought one there when I got married. But Alabama fans, Georgia fans, Clemson fans, Michigan fans, and Notre Dame fans, and believe it or not, Nebraska fans, you can find those guys all over the place. I don't know about Wisconsin. Now, if you mean the greatest fan bases and they love their team the most, that's objective and hard to argue against. But come down to Georgia. You won't drive more than 5 minutes without seeing 10 or 15 cars with Georgia stuff slapped all over it. And don't buy any Georgia Tech stuff because they're liable to run you off the road. It's just the way it is here. How many games can a Georgia coach lose before they will throw his purse in the parking lot? Jimmo's trolling. If Clemson is the most stacked team in college, is Clemson the most stacked team in college football history? It depends on your definition of stacked. Good thing I'm smart. Guy says 27-24. I don't know. We'll see. Hi, cool. You've been to my home. Been to Georgia, great sports state. Yep. Got married in And I can't pronounce the name of the park. It's got a cool Hawaiian name, but it's on the Big Island, and we stayed there for a week. It was a beautiful place, one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. And for those of you who've never been to Hawaii, I went to UGA when I dropped my cousin off and came back home. UGA is a wonderful place, but as far as scenery goes, if you've never been to Hawaii, that place is incredible. There's an observatory on the main island that pretty much, I mean, gets snow on it. I mean, and you can drive around the entire island in a day, and it's cool. There's a black sands beach, I believe, on the north side, and it's from volcanic rock. There's a rainforest area. There's a waterfall there. I mean, you think of Hawaii, you're like, oh, you know, it's an island, it's flat. No, it's not. It's just a mountain, basically. There's certain beaches you can't even go to. Well, you can go to them, but you can't get in water much because there's so much volcanic rock that if you fall down or if a wave hits you, it can cut you to ribbons. And while we were there, we got to see the never been to France. We got to see the battleships come by. It was pretty cool. But that place is gorgeous. A lot of local places to eat there. The food's wonderful. The people were super nice to us. We went to a little outdoor marketplace, and that was really awesome. And there were people that were selling stuff they'd made, and I mean, it's a great place. It's expensive though. My goodness. 2001 Miami is the most stacked team in my opinion. Golly, I can't even begin to reach across history. My football knowledge base isn't that deep. But there's, if you say that was a heck of a team, I have to take your word for it. The pressure cooker in the background puts in work. Well, actually, I got two of them. Got one there. This is a canner. That is a flat top griddle, and I got another one here somewhere. Hang tight 1 second, guys. I got to do something. I am being paged by the boss lady to bring her some water, and that's my boss, so she gets what she wants. Who'd you say is the top professional to come out of Georgia? Well, in my opinion, Herschel Walker, and I can explain why. You're not watching Holy War, Minnesota on Upset Alert? Nah. What else we got on here? Is Travis Etienne the best running back in your opinion? In my opinion, he's a sleeper for Heisman. He's a great downhill runner, but he doesn't have much agility. I'll be right back. Man, I hate doing that to you guys. Georgia Tech had the nerve to be lifting weights on the sideline during pregame. Yeah, because they that's what they have to do to be in shape to tote their bags off the field. They tote that whooping. What do you think about Justin Fields or Tate Martell quarterback carousel? Justin Fields is going to be a good quarterback. He's going to need some time to develop. His first year is going to be okay. Second year will be better. He needs to work on his decision-making process. BYU is looking good. Haven't really looked much at those guys, so I don't really know. I think he might be in the Allstate commercial. Who, me or who you talking about, man? What did this guy, what did he say? Samuel says, yep, hold on, Samuel. Tallest mountain from sea level in the world, snowcaps can go, the whole Big Island can go. I couldn't make it around there in 2 hours. Or maybe if you drive it straight and you don't stop. We stopped a whole bunch of times. Home of 11 of the 12 biomes around the world in unique black and red sand. Yep, place is gorgeous. Does Tua scare us? No. we folded Tua up like a chair last time we played him, and ended up having to come in with Jalen Hurts to bear him out. Who finishes ranked lower, Florida and Notre Dame? Florida, because they're going to play stronger teams. Notre Dame's not really playing anybody, so Auburn versus Oregon. Who you got? I'm going to take Oregon. Gus Malzahn struggles when he doesn't have a quality running back, and I don't really think they have a quality running back this year. So I mean, I think Oregon's going to burn them up. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be able to handle it. I think it's just too much speed. Auburn relies on speed as far as their wide receivers go to burn people up over the top. Well, in that Pac-12 conference, it's an air raid conference, so they're used to that. So their cornerbacks have speed, their cornerbacks have height, so that takes the advantage away from Auburn. And you turn around and you look at, they don't really have a running back to lean back on. What are they going to do? You know, is Bo Nix going to fold, or will he be good? Bo Nix will be okay. I mean, he's not going to be Cam Newton. He's going to be a good quarterback, but he's not going to be no Heisman Trophy winner, in my opinion. And I mean, the Georgia Tech game was what you expected it to be. Didn't really see anything that wasn't normal. What game do I want to see the most this weekend? Come on, Spoon, you know the answer to that. If you mean besides Georgia, I want to see the Texas game. I want to see how Texas does. And I can assure you, every game they lose this year, I'm gonna be all over them. Just everybody's hanging out, having a good time, so not a big deal. Do me a favor though, you guys, just hit the thumbs up for me. Helps the channel out. Come back and check me out during the regular week. Who do you think will return kicks and punts for us this year? Well, I hope it's not DeAndre Swift. Matt Miller said hook 'em 10-2. Probably reasonable. Sorry, it's expensive. Our government officials waste a lot of our money. University of Hawaii has very bad football facilities and not great established programs. That's why our top talent flies away. Y'all also have a drug problem out there at the islands, and a lot of those kids are looking to get away from that. I wish the government officials would do more about addressing that problem and helping the population there. Could you tell Georgia wasn't in that Sugar Bowl from the opening coin toss? I couldn't tell that to start with. I really had thought that Kirby was going to get that turned around in there mentally, but they just come out and look like crap, played like crap. They didn't have any intensity, and Texas didn't let up. So, I mean, hats off Texas. They did what they should have done. Georgia didn't. Can't fault them for kicking butt. Sleeper in the SEC, Missouri or South Carolina? Missouri's in the... I'd probably say, I don't know. If I had to pick one, I'd say Missouri. We'll pack Vandy Small Stadium Saturday. Oh, yeah. I know my man Bobby Durkins is having a ball right now. Basically what you saw tonight is the same thing you're going to see all season, except for when Clemson plays. I think they play Virginia Tech, except for when they play Texas A&M, Virginia Tech, and South Carolina. Everything else is going to be a carbon copy of tonight. It's going to be 50-point scores. It's going to be scoring at will, beating people into oblivion, being everything they want to be, and then rotating players out. I will tell you, though, if that trend continues for very many years, it will make the team softer. And whenever they get into the point where they play in the championship games, it'll be tough for them. Because they won't have a team that during the regular season that can expose their weaknesses. And then when they get to a truly elite team in a playoff game, they'll get destroyed. And that is absolutely the story behind Notre Dame. Bama really scheduled Duke. Bowl prediction, I think Rockies out finishes third in the East. I mean, if Tennessee plays his cards right, it could very well finish second. Because if Florida keeps playing like they're playing, his second spot's wide open. Who have I got winning the Heisman? I'd like to see DeAndre Swift, but the problem is that the Heisman Trophy has really changed from being about the best player to being about quarterbacks. I can't remember a time in recent history where it wasn't a quarterback. So if I had to pick a quarterback, I would say potentially Trevor Lawrence. I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be able to make it happen. Depending on the year Tua has, they might look towards Tua. Some people are picking Jake Fromm. I don't think Jake Fromm is flashy enough to get it. Derrick Henry. I mean, there's just a lot out there that could really. There's a lot of guys out there. You have to wait and see. But I'd take Tennessee second if Missouri didn't have a cup. You would take Tennessee second if Missouri didn't have a cupcake schedule. Maybe. Why would Oklahoma want Jalen Hurts in their system? Because they need a quality running back who knows the system, who is experienced. I mean, if you look at Jalen Hurts when he's the starter, I think he went 24-2. And the guy obviously knows how to lead a team. He's experienced. He played on Alabama. If you're going to play Alabama, it helps to have a player who has played there, because it's not that he's going to tell you anything that you can't see on tape as far as the play schemes and designs. But what that guy can tell you is the individual player's weaknesses. Like, this guy has a tendency, if it's third down and long, to want to push to the nose tackle or whatever. That kind of information can be beneficial. Bama has been hit hard with the injury bug this year. But it's early in the season. They'll get healed up. They don't really play anybody tough. South Carolina has been sleeping for 120 years in the football program. Oh, the South Carolina currently has Will Muschamp as a head coach, and he's an okay coach, but he's not. He's not a rock star head coach. I mean, they went from having Steve Spurrier to pretty much nothing, and then they got Will Muschamp, and they're still trying to recover from that. Do I remember Chris Conley playing at UGA? Yes, sir, I do. I also remember AJ Green and quite a few other players. No Sean Marino. Crabtree. Dominique. I watched all these guys for years. How about Mac Brown returning to UNC? I think Mac Brown returning to USC is like Urban Meyer returning to University of Central Florida. We made Spurrier quit. I believe so. He had our number there for a while. Aaron Murray was the GOAT. While he played at Georgia. After he left Georgia, man, he kind of fell apart. He didn't do anything exciting. But back to the game. Running over 30 minutes here. Really didn't want to go that long, but it is what it is. Clemson come out, hung 1 million points on the board and 10 million yards. Just devastated everybody. Everybody in the line was doing everything they were supposed to do. Everybody on offense was doing everything they were supposed to do. The only concerns I saw was that the defense was not strong up the middle. I'm sure that they'll get that. Julian Lumpkin says, "Go Texas." Who did UGA play this week? We played Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt SEC team. I think they had a 7-6 season last year. An okay team. Well, Georgia beat the brakes off of them. Head coach name's Derek Mason. I think they have a true freshman quarterback this year. I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. He's a good coach, not a great coach, not an elite coach. They don't have the elite talent Georgia does, so I don't expect them to really be a problem. You'll probably see something similar to what Clemson did to Georgia Tech is what Georgia did to Vanderbilt on Saturday. So, all right, guys, starting to get a little bit getting a little bit late. I'm tired. I'm gonna go to bed. Thanks so much for tuning in. I think we beat Clemson. We'll certainly give it a shot. Keyshawn Vaughn going for 100+ yards rushing. I don't know, man. We'll see what happens. Thanks, guys. You guys have a great night. Mahalo. We'll catch you guys next time. And as always, God bless. Go Dogs.